This is Jocko Podcast number 288 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
We're locked and loaded in a packed Chinook. Sitting on the floor is my only option, and my body vibrates the entire time. We've been flying in the pitch black, and I have no idea where we are, but we've been in the air for hours, so we have to be close. We're given the 2-minute warning by Sergeant Bucky, his Scottish accent slowly becoming easier for me to understand. Make ready for a possible hot LZ. My heart races at the thought of action on the landing zone. This is something I haven't experienced yet on my tour. Watson sits across from me and pulls his helmet over his tumble of dark hair, giving me the thumbs up. I force a nervous smile. It's a rough landing. Everyone rushes out of the chopper except me. I can't feel my legs. Patty's arm pushes me. Stay near the bomb dog bloke. I follow them. I look all around for Benji, a black lab bomb dog in the pitch black darkness. Perfect. We run into the open field, our breathing and boots crunching in unison. My foot catches in a deep hole, tripping me. Shit. I catch my balance and keep running on the uneven terrain. How much mortar has been in this area? There's so much adrenaline running through me, I haven't even thought about the fact that the ground below my feet is likely littered with IEDs. We've been told to watch where we step and never to kick anything around on the ground, but in the dark we can't see much. Even with NVGs, this landscape is hard to navigate. We push forward as the Chinook lifts off, its engines fading to a whisper. Just like that, the plane is gone, and the reality that I am outside the wire, outside the safety zone where the enemy is, kicks in. The enemy could be anywhere. And that right there is an excerpt from the book Brass and Unity, which is written by Kelsey Sharon, who was a soldier in the Canadian Army and served as an artillery gunner and also augmented British troops in Afghanistan. She saw some intense combat in her role and is here tonight to share some of those experiences with us, both before and after her tour in Afghanistan. Kelsey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. That was intense.
Yeah, well, it's that's your first op outside the wire.
Sure was.
And it seems like since you were augmenting, you're kind of hoping that things go right without a lot of input.
I just didn't know what to expect. I wasn't told anything.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was implying. Like,
yeah,
you're going to be an augment. We call them strap hangers. Have you ever heard that term before?
Never, no.
Okay. Strap hanger is someone that's really not part of the platoon or part of the task unit, but they're going to come with you for whatever reason.
Right.
Your case in point is a reason why we would take someone that's a strap hanger. Oh, we need a female to interrogate female civilians on target, or maybe somebody has some electronic device that needs placement, or maybe somebody's got some special skill, so they're going to come with us. Right? We call them a strap hanger. And like you just said, they kind of sit through the brief, but there's all kinds of stuff going over their head because they're not part of the unit.
I didn't get the brief.
So you didn't even get the brief.
Bro, I didn't even get the brief. I got picked up from the FOB and dropped off to the in Kandahar and said, "You're going to go with them."
All right, crazy.
I wish I got the brief.
So we'll get there, but I do like to start at the beginning. And apparently they like to start at the beginning in the Canadian Army, because when you went in, this was an interesting assignment that you got when you showed up to boot camp, and you get asked, and the assignment you get is in a few pages, describe why you joined the military, what made you choose the trade that you chose, and tell us a little bit about yourself. So they have you fill out this document, write this document, and I was like, well, that's a pretty good way to open the podcast, because it it sort of talks about who you are.
Right.
So it starts off, it says, I'm 18 years old. So this is your document. You have it in your book. Or I guess it's an approximation of your document.
It's an approximate. Yeah, they don't give it to, this is much as memory as I could.
Right. So you say, I'm 18 years old, and my parents are truck drivers who live in Campbellford, Ontario. Cool. Did I say that right?
Yeah, we invented the toonie. That's what we've got.
Well, the what?
The toonie. Exactly. Do you see your face right now? Yeah, that's right. It's a $2 coin. That's all we've got.
And you call it a toonie?
It's called the toonie, like the loony.
And they invented that where? In
Campbellford, Ontario.
You can just, is this like Bitcoin? You can just create your own thing?
Right, pretty much. You might as well at this point. Yeah, it's bad.
Okay, so this is it. What size town is this?
Graduating class of 100, couple stoplights, farm town, hockey town. Everybody knows everybody's parents. You can't get away with anything. Yeah, everybody just knows everyone.
And that's where you grew up your whole life?
For the majority of it. Up before that, I was in a smaller town as well. We were right beside a reserve, but it was pretty much that's the grow up spot for me.
So you continue on. My brother Dylan and I used to drive cross country in the cab with my dad. So that's legit.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we used to go with Dad all the time. Mom and Dad are both long haul drivers now, but when it was we were younger, Mom would stay home. Dad would go out on the road for 2-3 weeks at a time, and every once in a while we would go with him. And that just really entailed like sleeping, throwing pillows and doing nothing productive, and then using that as an excuse to spend time with Dad, because we just never really got that much time. And so the school would allow us to go if we wrote like a paper on what we saw. So we would travel all through the United States and Canada while we were younger and just kind of see the country that way. It was very limited, but it was good.
Was your dad listening to music when he drove?
That and at the time, I want to say, what's the curly-headed guy, glasses? I'm spacing on his name right now. It was a radio show.
Howard Stern?
Yes, Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Howard Stern. I listened to a lot of Howard Stern, really. Yes. Yeah. Your face is exactly what mine was. Really young. Yeah.
Your dad had an open mind.
My dad was a solid dude. My dad's a solid dude.
And I've always thought that, when you see like truckers, it's sort of a life in a way. It's kind of like a sense of freedom.
There is.
Out on the open road.
Yeah, it's that open road, but it's also that the sacrifice is a significant part of that life. And so it was almost like my parents were divorced, but they weren't. They're still married. And I would see him every 2-3 weeks for like 2 days. And then my mom would just be super angry the rest of the time because she had 2 kids by herself in 2 separate sports and just dealing with the bullshit.
Yeah, I get a lot of truck drivers now listen to podcasts, obviously. So I get a lot of support even when I'm driving on the highway myself. I'll get the head nod from a truck driver. It's
I love
cool.
that so much.
Right on. So continuing on. I love seeing Canada. I love traveling. I always knew there was more for me out there than in Campbellford. Campbellford? Am I saying that right?
Do you know the Trenton Air Base? Have you ever heard of the Trenton Air Base where Russell Williams came from?
Okay.
Do you remember who that was?
No.
The serial killer that ran the Canadian Air Force?
I did not know that.
That just got caught like 6 years ago?
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Fun fact for you. Yeah, there's your fun fact.
So what's the deal with this guy?
So his name was, I don't even like to say his rank because he's a disgusting human being, but he...
Now I remember. Yep. He was like he was an officer, and he was...
he ran the Air Force for all of Canada. Yeah, and he traveled the world, and now they're looking at all the different places he was at to see missing women, because we had a girl from my town, from my high school, and then a master corporal. So he killed her, then planned her funeral, and then attended it.
God.
Yeah, so he's sociopathic, and he used to break into the local houses and like torment people and like just steal things. And so my parents had a cabin on that road that he used to. Yeah, he lived close, like awkwardly close. So like the Trenton Air Base.
Even during that time period?
Yeah, my parents lived. Yeah, he was not far at all. Super great.
Okay, this is getting creepy already.
Good.
So going on. I was bullied the whole time I was in school, both physically and verbally. I don't know a time when I wasn't bullied for something. People pushed me around and told me I was weak. I've always felt the need to fight and prove myself tougher than everyone else because I'm small. I was told I couldn't do things because of my size, so I always tried my best to prove that I could. My parents always pushed me to work hard, and they made me believe that I can do anything I want if I put in the effort. I'm thankful they made me so strong. So you're getting bullied all the time?
That was a thing for me all the way up from young to through the military. And it's not like a sob story. Who's getting bullied? Like I don't care. Like whatever, but we all get bullied. So it's a thing, right? But yeah, my height has always been an issue. And even when I started fighting when I was 4, and then I stopped fighting when I was 20. And in that time frame, it was a constant rigmarole issue where I was bullied just for size, just because I was training so hard. I actually stunted my growth and my development. And so my hair was super short. I looked like a boy. All I cared about was fighting. So I had a lot of different things for people to pick on in a lot of different ways. And so it was a constant thing. You're not able to do this. You're too small to do that. You're a woman, so you can't do this. It's just bullshit that every kid goes through. Just through life.
I have that conversation with people, because I've written a bunch of kids' books about, and bullying is a topic in all of them. But that's the thing with kids, you're going to get bullied, because if you're the biggest, strongest, most badass 10-year-old, there's a 12-year-old that's going to bully you.
You're
because
damn right.
He's bigger and stronger than you. That's just the way it goes. So everyone's got to own up to that. How small are you? You keep saying you're small. How small are you?
I'm on a good day when I roll my back out, I'm 5 foot.
But normally?
About 4'8" with my slouch. Depends on the day.
Right on. And we're going to get into this fighting thing. When I was 5 years old, my mother signed me up for Taekwondo, and I fell in love with it. I lived and breathed it, trained and fought competitively for 8 years. I even taught classes. I earned my black belt when I was 11 years old. I learned who I was on those mats. I found determination and spirit and passion, and I plan to be a professional athlete. So that's kind of a cool, you found your thing.
Yeah, I definitely found my thing. Yeah, there's nothing like kicking people in the face.
How often were you training? Like how many hours a day?
I was on 3 days for most part. So once I hit competitive level, so I think that was 11 when I became the national champion. Once I got that, and then I hit my 2nd degree black belt, and then I started fighting in like weight classes. That's when things got really, really serious for me. But the thing with Taekwondo that's really fascinating is, you can go 2 paths with it, right? You can go the pattern path, where that's an Olympic sport on its own. It's its own, competitive aspect, but then you can go on the fighting aspect of it. And I really did not enjoy the pattern side. I really enjoyed the fighting. It helped me get through everything I was dealing with in school. So I would train at 5 a.m. in the mornings, and this is like elementary school age. 5 a.m. in the mornings. Depending on lunch, I would also go to the gym and do my own training session. And then after school, I would walk back to the club, and I would do my classes, and then I would teach, and then I would go home. Yeah.
Whenever you ever know anything about gymnastics?
Yeah, so my husband was a competitive gymnast for a while. Yeah.
Because when I meet kids that are gymnasts, is that what you say?
Gymnasts?
Gymnasts, yeah. When I meet kids that are gymnasts, if they're at a certain level, because my middle daughter did gymnastics, then she got to not a very high level, 4, 5, something like that. And at 4, when you're at that level, they look at you and they kind of say, are you in?
Yeah, because it's like...
And if you're in, to start going 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, there's all these different levels. You're training 5 hours a day, 7 hours a day. And so those kids will be, 9 years old, and they'll be doing 6 hours a day of gymnastics.
Yeah, no problem, without even question.
So it sounds like you did that, but for Taekwondo. And you're competing when you say you won the national championships, is that in Canada?
Yeah, so I was the national champion for my weight class in Canada the first year I competed at that level.
What was your weight class?
74.6 pounds, I believe.
In fighting, you can always ask people how much they weighed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's appropriate.
It's totally appropriate. It's totally appropriate.
However, you say this: when I found out that my coach made a very stupid decision and jeopardized my training and hurt a lot of people, I was angry for a long time. I lost my ability to trust. I lost my future thanks to his poor decision. So you get into this later, but your coach basically was some kind of a child molester with one of your
my training
teammates.
partner. Yeah, he went to prison for sexual assault, for statutory rape, which... Yeah, it's not prevalent in some of these sports when you spend a lot of time with your coaches, but it happens. Yeah.
And then what happens to your training then?
So, well, for me, it wasn't so cut and dry, because the family, we found out kind of later that one of the families knew about it, and no one spoke up about it. Once my mom found out, that's when things kind of went sideways, because Kath yells a lot. Kath will lose her shit, and she'll.
Oh, this is your mom?
This is mom. She's vicious. Mm-hmm. And so once Kathy found out about it, things changed. And then I got abruptly pulled from there. And I wasn't told much. I was told that the individual and my coach there was a relationship going on for 2 years. He had a wife and a child that was 3 years old at the time. Jeez. And I was living with them, though. I was living with my coaches because it was like a 45 to 50-minute drive to my house from where we were living to where my club was. And in order for me to be going as frequently as I needed to be going, I needed to be living with them. So that was fine. I stayed there. I lived with them. He never pulled that with me, never tried that with me, never even hinted at that with me, because people ask me all the time. But there was, if I missed a training session in the morning, that's when things would kind of go down. Or if I showed up a little bit later, because she was one of my main training partners. So it was like her and I would train together frequently. We would travel together frequently. And so it went through the system, and then I wasn't even aware when it was going through the court systems. Like, my mom kept me right out of it. I tried to go to a couple other clubs, and I tried. Like, I genuinely tried to be comfortable there, but I was so angry, and I became so I could not trust anyone to that extent.
Who are you angry at?
I was so angry at him. Mm-hmm. He ripped everything he ripped the rug out from underneath me. When I say the goal was the Olympics, I eat, sleep, breathe. If I woke up in the morning and my six-pack wasn't there, I would do sit-ups until it was there. There was no fucking around in my life. This is all I wanted. And when this grown man made a poor decision and couldn't keep it in his pants and went after a child, there's a couple different aspects that go with that. There's, you're an adult, I trusted you. But then there's this, you did that with a child. So it was this very multifaceted frustration and anger. And instead of training it out, I shut the taps off. I stopped fighting abruptly. It all of a sudden was everything to nothing. And I had no way of coping with it at all.
Going back to the book, without Taekwondo, I found it hard to get through high school. My friend Lisa introduced me to rugby, which was a great way to get out anger. Rugby was filling my time, but it wasn't making me happy. I couldn't wait to get out of high school and leave Campbellford. I went to college in Ottawa just to get away. I was accepted into a travel and tourism program that I didn't care about, and I was struggling, feeling like I had no purpose. On Remembrance Day last November, I went to a service in Ottawa, and on my way home, I chatted with an older female veteran on the bus. I can't explain why, but I felt like I was supposed to meet her. She told me about her experience being a pilot in the Air Force, and I thought she was amazing. I decided that even though I didn't know anything about the military, it sounded like a good career for me. I went to a recruitment center and spoke with a representative. He told me about the camaraderie that I would find in the armed forces and how great a career it would be. Finally, I felt like I found the thing that would make me happy, where my strengths would be valued and where I could form true friendships. I'm excited to be training and become an artillery gunner. I joined the Army because I want to help people and serve my country. I want to be part of something meaningful, and I want to make my parents proud. I chose artillery because I respect the power of weapons and because I'm told I'm too small to be infantry. I love the thought of being able to protect my unit by being behind the guns if I can't be on the front lines. I joined the Army because, well, I feel like I've been training to fight my whole life. End of your introduction into the Army. Mm-hmm. So that's it. You met someone at Remembrance Day.
Legitimately. It was on a bus. I'm a big history fan. It was the one thing in school that, as much as I sucked at other schooling, because I just couldn't grasp, history I could grasp. I could wrap my brain around it, and it was an interest for me. And so I always went to the ceremonies. Up until writing this book, I didn't even know I had a family member that was in the military. And it was my grandfather that served in World War II. So I met him. He passed when I was 3. I had no clue. So for me, it was this respect that I just, for whatever reason, knew I needed to pay to these individuals. So I would go to ceremonies. So it wasn't out of the blue for me to go. So I would go down, and on the bus ride back, there was just this woman. And it's that stereotypical thing in a movie you see, and it's like this, kind of coming off her. And I'm not a shy person. I will walk up to you if I think I need to talk to you. I'm sorry if it makes you uncomfortable, but I'll do it. And I did. And I walked up to her, and she was incredibly receptive. And we just spoke briefly, very briefly. I missed my stop. got back on the bus, went back to the college, walked right into the next class and said, I'm out. That's as quick as it was.
Do you know who this female officer was?
No, I have no clue. That's like the worst part. Andy even said to me, he's like, do you have her phone number? She's the best recruiter of all time. I said, I bet you she's probably not even alive anymore. That's how old she was.
Okay.
So.
What year was this?
2007.
Oh, so you know that there's a chance, hey, I'm going to the...
Oh, it's popping off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the drill. So I remember the towers. I watched it like a very vivid. So I understood what the concept was. I knew by watching the news, this is at the time when you were seeing a lot of things in the media about terrorism, right? It was that era of the news where it was like, there's a terrorist attack here, there's a terrorist attack here. And before, you weren't really seeing too much of that. Now you're not seeing as much on the mainstream media, but that was where I was still getting my information at the time. Not anymore, but that's where. And so, sorry. And so with that, I was aware. And when I walked in, the first thing they said to me was, you know that we're in an active war. That literally, you know we're in an active war. You will deploy if you go in. And I was like, that's fine with me. I have no issue with that at all. So they're like, okay, let's sign you up. We'll give you a call.
How'd your parents feel about it?
No issue. Mom and dad understood it was either going to be a cop or something along those lines where I would be in that position. I've always been a type A person, and I've always been in that role, captain of teams, that type of thing. Need to work on the anger when I was younger, but other than that, I was fairly squared away early on, self-motivated, and so they knew there'd be something along those lines. I just don't think they kind of thought that would happen.
What was the time gap between the end of Taekwondo and joining the Army? Was it years? Was it like 4 years?
Yeah, a couple years. Yeah, a few years.
Yeah, it seems... I talk to a lot of vets, and one of the big things I talk about is, finding a new mission. And it seems like you had a mission with Taekwondo,
right,
and that got taken away, and you're kind of floundering around, not really, a little bit of rugby, a little bit of college, a little bit of whatever. But then you get that, you meet that officer that just all of a sudden it's like new mission. Had you ever thought about the military before that? No,
not at all. We don't hunt. My parents don't own guns. I never killed anything in my life. I've never eaten anything besides beef and shit. Like this wasn't normal for me. But I was like, hey, this feels right.
Right on. Yeah. All right, so going back to the book here, let's get to boot camp. Our doors kicked open, get up. With one eye open, I look at the time. I'm a morning person, but 0400 comes real early if you're not ready for it. They're screaming and yelling from the hallway, get out, get out. I haven't been out of bed this early since training for my black belt, and suddenly I'm thankful for those 8 years of early morning practices. I roll out of bed as the sergeant marches toward my end of the room. Move it, down the stairs, now. My whole troop exits like a stream of fish toward the door, where people are tripping over their feet, pushing into the hall and rumbling down the stairs. On the main floor, there's a semblance of calm and a chorus of yawns as we stand obedient in a line. Half of us aren't fully awake as the sergeant paces in front of us. It's time for physical training, PT. Every morning from now on, you'll be ready at 0400. I'm not your mommy coming to wake you. He glares down the line, and I'm sure his eyes pause on me for a moment. You are to be fed, dressed, downstairs, and waiting together in two perfect lines. If one of you is late, or you're down here with unpolished boots, everyone is treated to an extra round of push-ups or an extra mile outside in the cold. His voice hardens. There will be consequences. So, welcome to boot camp scenario.
Yeah, it was great.
You were amped?
I thrived.
Did you have the 7 minutes of going, damn, what did I do?
No, I had the learn how to shut your fucking mouth situation that was struggle for me.
Did you start popping off immediately?
Not immediately. No. And not even to not to the superiors, to just people, because they were just already shit talking me. It was immediate.
What kind of shit talking?
Well, we were on the 9th floor. And so you know this, you don't use the elevators. That's for the staff. You don't even fucking look in that direction of the elevators. Somebody made that mistake, and that was entertaining for me to watch. And so when we got there, I was already kind of in that mindset of okay, this is like a workout. This just is going to be what this is going to be. So just get in that zone. And so I was already starting to do stairs, pre-workout. I was doing my own stuff kind of thing, even starting. And I had a bunch of people in there that were in my pod that were other women that were they couldn't do push-ups, at all. at all. And so they would just start posturing, and people would just start posturing. Everyone was trying to feel each other out. Who's going into what trade? Who's doing this? Why did they join? We had a guy who joined because he said he was good at Halo. So this was going to be like an interesting process. But
like he was a free fall guy?
No, like the video game, bud.
Oh, the video game.
Like
Echo Charles.
It's so funny to just see your eyes go blank. Like, Halo, yeah.
Well, if he's a Halo guy.
Yeah, no, like legitimate video game guy. He VR'd out within like 3 weeks.
What's VR'd?
Voluntary release.
Check.
Same as DOR.
It's a DOR.
Yeah.
But see, could you get out of the Canadian military if you VR?
Yeah, you're out. Like if you don't even make it through basic training, you can just sign this piece of paper and then bye. Yeah, that or you go up to the fat camp floor if you can't do the workout.
Fat camp.
Yeah, 13th floor. It's where people who can't do the basic stuff that have to go up there and they get recoursed until they're able to do the push-ups or push it out or do the sit-ups or whatever.
Private pile. Get up there. You say this. I thought I left high school. I thought I left in high school and followed me to college here. 2, apparently, I'm training for my career, not to win a popularity contest, so the hell with them. Part of me actually enjoyed the shit talking, meant that they viewed me as strong, gave me... So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's people that are looking at you like you think you're super cool, but it's just because you're in good shape.
I was the most ripped I've ever been in my entire life. I was so proud of that.
How many pull-ups could you do?
Honestly, about 30 at the time.
Yeah, so you're competitive with... You're probably one of the leaders of the class as far as physical...
Oh, that's the only thing I can say confidently. With like with my own car, like I 100%. I'm not even... There's no like shit talking. Like I was physically fit. Yes, at the time.
And people didn't like that.
No, they don't appreciate when the 5'1" and then the 6' guy can't do it. It's a good time.
Going fast forward. Oh yeah, by the way, so I only read little chunks of the book.
It's
so
okay.
People have to buy the book when it comes out.
Yes, it will come out.
Which we're working on.
Well, there's a lot of other cool things that are attached to the book, so that's why they're holding the book.
Cool.
Yeah, don't worry, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, but anyway, so if it sounds a little like I'm jumping around or like, wait, if something doesn't make sense for a second, it's because I just skipped 9 pages of reading, right? Because we're not doing an audio book. I don't think I'd be the right person to read the audio book.
I mean, although if you would offer, I would be like, Jocko's doing the audiobook. That's legit.
Check. Fast forward. After a few more hours, I'm chilled to the bone, even though I'm in my full winter uniform. Thermal underwear, thermal undershirt, polar fleece pants, polar fleece shirt, combat toque.
We had a lot of kit, man.
Combat parka big bib pants, gloves, wool socks, and muckluck boots. The snow has started melting, but the ground is frozen icy. I can barely feel my feet. Yeah, you got way more cold weather gear because you're in Canada.
And you know what? That cold weather gear didn't do shit.
I can barely feel my feet. I bring my rifle to my chest for the millionth time today, and we wait for the order. Fix bayonet. A succession of clicks rings out as we unsheath our bayonets, sun glinting off the metal blades, snapping them into place on our rifles. I no longer have to use my brain for this drill. My muscles know what to do, and this is what they want. I step forward and lunge, rifle extended, step back, forward march, bring my rifle to my side again and again. I stand back up screaming, kill. And with everyone else, I jab my rifle into the dummy's chest, neutralizing the enemy. Who the enemy is or where we will be facing them someday, I don't know, but we're told this training may save our lives. Good old bayonet course.
Yeah, because that's going to do a lot in like a hand-to-hand combat in Afghanistan, isn't it?
So you get into this part of the book now that I'm going to read little chunks of it, not a lot of them, but okay. I kind of have to because it's sort of there's this thread throughout the book which you don't label it this way, but I will. It's sort of the voice of PTSD.
It is our PTSD voice. You got it.
But it's also your own voice. It's like you talking to yourself. And it took me a while. I was like, okay, this is PTSD talking. But then there's certain times where I started saying, oh, well, I guess PTSD is your own voice, right? Mm-hmm. It's some part of your brain that's saying this. So you do a really cool job of having these little sections in the book that are the voice that's in your head. I think this is the first one. Hello, Kelsey. You haven't met me yet, but you will. And I already know everything about you. I've been logging details about your life since you almost died in the womb. No wonder you're always worried about doing things wrong. You couldn't even be born right. Fun fact, the bullying will never stop for you. That's what happens when you're weak.
It's a good voice, eh?
I feel like I would be a good PTSD. I might not be a good voiceover for your book.
But for that character?
Because I'm a male and you're a female. But maybe I could do the PTSD voice.
Well, I might have to just hold you to that.
So there's a couple of things. What's this? You almost died in the womb.
I was just really sick. So I had this issue where they decided not to take me out right away. And I had the meconium that went down into my lungs. So, yeah. And then they held me in there. And so I believe it was my aunt who ended up punching a hole in the wall against the doctor because the doctor was like, we're going to wait it out. But she had a friend a couple weeks before that had the same situation, and they left the baby. And then she ended up getting cerebral palsy due to it because they didn't pull it quick enough and extract it quick enough. So it was just incredibly damaging to the fetus. And so they ended up pulling me in time. But now I've had some issues just because of bullshit like that.
So you got that in the back of your head, and then this thought that you're always going to get bullied.
Not even bullied, just this constant voice being like, you're never going to be enough. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is. How much of that little voice is what kind of makes you go hard?
It's all the voice that makes me go hard. Let's be honest, I don't know any other way. Yeah, it's a problem.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, as long as it stays in check.
Yeah.
As long as it's in check, I can handle it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I hear that kind of thing, and I'm listening to you kind of be negative on the voice, but there's only one thing that gets you up in the morning when you're like 9 years old.
Yeah. No.
To get your black belt in Taekwondo. Like, you could be super motivated. I get that. But most likely it's something going, you better do this.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to book, some more training. The sound of gunfire in the early morning scares the crap out of everyone. I jump up to see what's going on. The sergeant is firing an entire 28-round clip in the trench, screaming at one of the guys, everyone is dead because of you. Because you couldn't do one thing, stay awake to protect your troop. He stomps toward the soldier who is sleeping and hands back the rifle. Do you understand? He glares at the rest of us. You are all fucking dead, he yells and stomps toward all of us. When you're on watch, you open your eyes and stay awake. I'm now more awake than I've ever been in my entire life, and I channel all that anxious energy into our 13-kilometer ruck march. I'm kitted up and ready to do this testing all over again in the field. I trudge along the trail, feeling the 50 pounds on my back and my lack of sleep during the last 5 days. Adrenaline carries me over the first 5 kilometers, and I feel good. But my body understands what I need to do because I've done this before. Is it going to suck? Hell yes, but I'll finish it with a bit of mind over matter and some sheer stubbornness. This mentality carries me through 12 kilometers, and then my feet are on fire. The pain swallows me, radiating up through my ankles to my knees, and I feel like I'm losing my mind and stop mid-stride. Come on, I chastise myself. You can do this. Slowly, I take another step. If I stop now, I'll have to start from the beginning, and that's just not an option. I plod along the trail, counting each step. Just when I start to slow down again, Lieutenant Labonte, am I saying that right?
Lieutenant Labonte.
Lieutenant, oh yeah, it's okay. You're going to hit me with that.
I did it.
Lieutenant Labonte, for those of you that have never worked with the British or the Canadian military, they don't say lieutenant. They say lieutenant.
Oh, yeah.
So Lieutenant Labonte comes up behind me. Come on, Burns, she shouts. You've got this. She hands me some Swedish berries. What's a Swedish berry?
Those candies, those little pink berries that you can buy?
I'm taking your word for it.
Yeah, they're like
I'm
this
American.
little... You sell them here? Yes, you do.
Never seen them.
I'm sending you Swedish berries.
Send them.
They're good.
She knows you love them. I pop the sweet, chewy candies into my mouth and pick up the pace with the sugar kick. Finish and you'll get more. Okay, Lieutenant. I have it in me and she believes me. I don't want to let her down. I continue marching on, burning feet for candy. Somehow made it to the end. My feet are screaming, but there's still a fireman's carry and a trench dig ahead. I have to just put my head down, eat the pain, and do it. I've done this before. By the time I finish, I have no strength left, but this part of the course is over. I've survived a week of sleep deprivation and grueling physical tasks, and now hot showers await the rest of us. How many people pass this?
I think everyone.
Really?
Yeah, pretty close.
So you're doing a 13-mile forced road march, sounds like.
Yeah, it's mandatory. You have to, so we practice. They make you go through basic, and you start with a couple kilometers, then you start with 5, then you work up to 10, then you get to your 13, and then it's just part of you have to do the ruck march, then you have to do the fireman carry, then you have to do the trench dig. And once you've done all of those, and you do it within a time frame, then you're good to go.
And everybody passes.
Well, not necessarily, but I think on my group, everyone was pretty.
Okay,
I think we were
in your
good.
group, yeah.
I think so.
What about the people from the 13th floor?
Well, I don't know. We don't see them. They slowly get recoursed on other courses because they've pulled, right? So then they just get, as a course goes through, and they jump back into the week that they were.
And you're carrying a 50-pound pack.
Yeah,
for this thing.
I think that's like the base that we have to carry.
Sandbag thrown in there? Or is it like actual gear?
I think it was actual gear.
Oh, that's cool. I seem like in a lot of training, I was just carrying a straight up sandbag.
I heard it's like rocks and sandbags with you guys.
It's just awesome senselessness.
I mean, and then, somebody told me Griff from Combat Flip Flops that he carried, because he was the new officer, they put like a rock. He's like, I carried the whole thing, all of Afghanistan. It's like, but like, why?
Yeah.
but like, why? He's like, I was a new guy.
There's a technical answer to that.
Of course.
Because.
Yeah. I love that answer. It's one of my favorites too.
And is that right there when you earned your artillery badge?
No, that was just the first
the end
course.
of basic training?
No, so we do that in basic, and then we also do that in SQ and DP1. So SQ is like your weapons, your carology, your grenades, your C7, C6s, C8s, all of those. And then you go into your trade specific training. But that's the time I ripped the bottom of my feet off.
That one.
It's either that one or another one, but I've done it a few times.
You ripped the bottom of your feet off.
My boots were just not, because my feet are too small.
What size feet do you have?
4.5, 5s. Yeah. And then after the pregnancy, I'm like 5.5. I was like almost an adult. But yeah, the shoes, like, so the boots they don't have issued boots to fit you. So you just put a lot of socks. And so that the friction can help, but then it can also hinder as the heat gets in there. And so that just starts to happen on like a repeat basis.
So you lost the skin on the bottom of your feet.
Yeah. So from like the back of my ankles all the way down to like the balls of my feet, just like tore off with my sock.
That sounds like fun.
It was a good time. It sounds like a good time is what it is. You've
right
had
on.
That stuff. Don't
my
go
feet,
there.
My feet have usually been pretty good. You know, when I was a kid, I played basketball. And my dad was actually a basketball coach for a while. And I got a new pair of basketball shoes. And my dad said, hey, when you wear them for the first time, put on 2 pairs of socks. And I was like, whatever. Because, I never listened to my dad if he was telling me something. No, actually, I did. In this case, I listened to my dad. I put on 2 pairs of socks, and I didn't or maybe I didn't, whatever. I figured out that putting on 2 pairs of socks was a huge benefit when it came to breaking in a new pair of shoes. And then I figured out that if you're going on a long patrol and you wore 2 pairs of socks, that second pair like relieves a lot of the friction that you would get. So I always did that, and my feet almost always held up pretty good. Yeah. I mean, obviously it'd come out with like some hot spots. One time I got have you ever heard of trench foot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got trench foot, but my buddy that I was with got it way worse than me. And I had numbness in my feet for a long time, but I didn't lose a lot of skin. That was just from being wet. And
I was just going to say, were you guys playing footsies?
No, we were not. We were in a swamp on a recon for like, it was just a training exercise, but we were in a swamp on a recon for like 6 straight days. Oh. And so the feet were wet for 6 days and cold. And yeah, it wasn't good. But the guys in World War II lived like that for what? Oh, we were there for 19 months living in a trench, so whatever.
Right.
Okay, so you fast forward a little bit, you're done with your training, you're now officially a soldier in the Canadian Armed Forces. Going back to the book, later in the day I found out I've been posted to Petawawa. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Petawawa.
I like these phonetic pronunciations or spellings. I'm posted to Petawawa, Ontario. I'm happy that I'll be closer to my parents, but I'm disappointed. I'm joining a unit that isn't deploying, and I want to go overseas, use my new skills, and fight. So when the opportunity comes up to trade postings with someone who isn't healthy enough to deploy, I jump on it. I knock on Lieutenant Labonte's door. She looks up from her desk. Hello, Burns. What is it? So that's your maiden name? Is that what they call it?
Yes,
Burns?
that is the maiden name.
Hello, Burns. What is it? I take a step inside and blurt. I hear that there's a guy who's not able to go to Valcartier.
Vacartier.
Okay, whatever.
Right. That's what I said when I got there. That's, you know what? I'll take it. I'm taking it.
Not able to go to Valcartier.
There it is.
I would like to volunteer to trade postings with him. Sit down. She looks me straight in the eye. You do realize that Valcartier is deploying to Afghanistan. I nod and she waits a moment, letting me think it over. I wonder what Afghanistan will be like after all we're told of fighting. After all, we're told of fighting in a war and all our drills. Does she not think I'm ready? I think back to the time she offered me encouragement, the chocolates, the sweetest berries, and hope she doesn't think I'm not strong enough. My eyes move over the medals on her uniform, then to the photos on her wall. I do not dream about killing people, but I am prepared to protect the infantry units from the Taliban and take out the enemy no matter what it takes. You sure? Her mischievous brown eyes are now thoughtful and warm. Yes, ma'am. I sit up straight in my chair and study her, trying to imagine what she's thinking. She leans forward and ponders for a moment. I curl my fingers around the thin fabric of my uniform and feel my insides squirm in a way that they haven't done since the first day the sergeant yelled at me. After all the stressful months of mental and physical training, the exhausting sleep deprivation, I want to finally prove what I'm capable of. I'll start the paperwork, but I don't see there being a problem. Thank you, Lieutenant. I won't let you down. So that was it.
Yeah.
You were able to just volunteer to switch positions with some other human that wasn't ready to deploy.
Yeah. So what had happened was we went out on the last Field X that we were doing before, the one where they just sleep fuck you and then make you dig your own trench and live in it. And so we were dealing with all of that. And at that time in New Brunswick, it's summer, so it's violently hot. And, well, who am I fucking kidding? I was up in LA yesterday and I thought I was going to die, so it's fine. So it was hot. And what had happened was this guy was a gym rat, okay? And he was hard on the creatine, like hard on, to the point where his kidneys started shutting down and he didn't know it.
That's hard on the creatine.
Yeah.
Echo's like, damn, that's hard.
Like, bro, you went hard. Yeah.
Echo pushed the limits on that.
Yeah. And so he, during that X, though, had to end up going to the medics because the heat was taking him out. He couldn't take it. And so we found out that his kidneys were not doing well. And so he couldn't go to Afghanistan just because of the heat based on that. Like, he wouldn't be able to process water and he was having a lot of struggle. So he actually had a dad, apparently, that was a captain in Petawawa. And he originally wanted to go to Petawawa. And I didn't really care. I was unattached. I didn't have any responsibility. So I was fine going really wherever. My goal was deploy as quickly as possible. Because the way that they had set me up, they were like, you're going to do course, and you're going to go. So in this whole time, I'm like, okay, course, let's go. And then we got this, well, Petawawa is not, it's Vekitse's first, and then Pet will take the next rotation.
First?
The first rotation.
Okay.
So like they were already doing rotations. And so what? I can't deal with you right now.
No, well, okay. So what's the place called?
Okay.
Let's
do English. Valcartier.
Okay, so there's a thing. Side note. Okay, so there's a thing.
It's actually Valcartier.
That's
How dare I?
That's French, right?
Correct.
So in Canada, there's a lot of French. Like French is part of Canada.
Hold up.
Right?
It's our second language, but it's really only spoken from like Ontario out east.
Yeah. So when you
He's
say
Canadian, by the way.
I was born in Canada.
Where?
He was born in Canada.
Victoria.
So that's why
West
he's
Coast.
coming off talking
you're from the island. You're close to me.
He's
Yes,
all
ma'am.
talking authoritarian
Okay,
about,
here we go. All right,
Canada.
give it to me.
So okay, so when you say French words, you go hard with the French.
Yeah.
Here in United States, we'll say most of the time, I don't know, a significant amount of the time, if you say a word that's not like regular English, you don't really go hard on the accent.
Oh.
That's just the tradition.
I apologize.
No, wait. I don't know if that's the tradition, or I don't know if that's the universal tradition, or if that's just a tradition here amongst our little small group of two people.
You're correct. It's
because if you watch the news, sometimes they start saying some other non-English word, and they're going real hard.
Yeah, so that's usually if it is someone like if someone's from like Spanish words, for example, they might be from a Spanish-speaking place, or they might grow up in a family that they speak Spanish. See what I'm saying?
What about a gringo like myself?
Yeah,
I'm going hard.
You do not go hard at all.
How do you say it in French? Valcartier.
Valcartier.
Say it one more time.
Valcartier.
See how it's like
so
not
you have an L in
computing?
there.
See that?
Valcartier.
Valcartier. Yeah, I was posted there, so I had to learn French.
Right.
I didn't speak it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Even the L, it's like a French L. It's different.
Yeah, it doesn't
See,
sound...
I just said white. Yeah, because sometimes he doesn't speak French either, but I'll go white like once in a while because it's
What'd you
just
say, white?
like white, like we.
Oh, okay, got it.
But it's just slang like white, like yes. It's okay. We'll get through this. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Poor soul.
So maybe not a universal rule.
It's not universal, no. But
for me as a gringo,
yes.
I'm not even going to try.
But you say gringo.
I think it's insulting to kind of try, right?
That's the thing. That's why I kind of laugh because okay, so there's a guy, I forget his name. I forget his name. He's from Canada, and he said this as part of like a joke. It's like, yeah, like we in Canada, we say it like correctly. The French words, we say it correctly, and then they laugh at us.
Yeah.
Because in America, that's kind of part of the thing sometimes. Not all the time. Sometimes where, like, it's almost like, because some people mess it up for everybody else. So they, you know, like these pretentious people, they never been to France. They don't speak French.
Yeah.
And then they'll say like normal, like French word, not normal, but like French words that we say anyway, but we tend to say it in like a no French accent, but they'll emphasize the accent. And you're like, hey, you're only doing that to act like all educated or whatever you're trying to act like, you know? You know how you can sense that on some people?
Yeah.
Okay. So that kind of plays a significant role in our perception, I think, a lot of the time. But when you're really from Canada...
In our perception?
You know what? Exactly. You just said that beautifully. You got that down.
Amen. So, yeah. And so, but that's kind of the tradition. Well, that's how it is.
Because Canada's second language is French. Mm-hmm. But if you live on the West Coast, you're more hearing things like Arabic, Farsi, Mandarin, Cantonese. Like heavy, especially on the BC area. If you go out of there, you're just getting English. Mm-hmm. But if you go in the city of Vancouver, it's like, there's parts like Richmond, it's straight up Mandarin. Like signs, Mandarin. If you go into like areas like Surrey, you'll get Arabic, you'll get Farsi, you'll get Pashto, you'll get some of that. You'll get Pakistani. It's that kind of community. When you go out into like the rest of the area, it really just depends. But then you get the middle of Canada, which is just like this weird flatland, just like sorry, kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And then you go to like Ontario and you get a mix. Then you get Quebec. Once you hit that border and you cross Montreal and you go up, that shit is real.
It's just George St. Pierre left and right.
Oh, like no joke.
My boy GSP coming in hot with the French.
So hot. And then if you go to New Brunswick, you get Acadian French, which is just like, I can't understand a fucking word they say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I couldn't understand what you just said either.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the point. That's the point.
But you see how casually Kelsey was just like, like she switched on the French real quick, casually, right? Because that's just how.
Right.
But here, that's why you were all, bro, it didn't even compute. Bro, I'm looking at you, you're like, and you're like, and then so you got to ask, what did you just say? Yeah. Bro, we just went over it a second ago. The whole thing. And you said, what did you say? Like, I caught it because, you know.
Yeah, because you got the Canadian blood.
You know, but.
He's got the parts.
So that's why that was funny.
I appreciate it.
You'll probably run into that again, by the way. So
that's the first time.
We're only 43 pages into this book, and I'm sure there's some more fronts. Actually, there's some more French in there that I just said I'm not reading this.
You don't have to.
I DOR'd on speaking French. I barely speak English. So, speaking of, fast forward a little bit here. Yeah. Speaking of Montreal, you go to Montreal, and I kind of had to include this part of the story because you end up meeting a dude.
My dude.
Yeah. I guess now he's officially your dude.
Yeah.
But you're at a party in Montreal, and you meet a dude.
No, let me correct you.
Yes.
I was sleeping with his teammate, and I met him through his teammate.
Can you clarify sleeping a little bit? I don't know what that means in Canada.
I was fucking his teammate, Jocko.
Okay.
And then I went to an after party, and we all came back to his room, and there was 8 of us.
I did not expect you to say that.
Why?
Because I thought you meant sleeping in the literal sense.
No, like his teammate
was
like...
people are going to probably interpret this the wrong way.
No, here's the thing. In the motocross industry, it's incredibly incestuous. Like, it just is. It just is the way. If you're in a high level, it is. It's like any other professional athlete sport. Mm-hmm. There's puck bunnies, and there's people who like special forces guys. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's cliques of women who like certain type of people. And so my type of people was the motocross guys. Okay. But I used to race. And so at a point I was like 14, and there was this guy, and I was like, you one day. And then I got old enough, and I moved, and then you one dayed him. Mm-hmm. And then we went to the race to see him race, and we were there with some friends. We went to the Monster Energy after party, and we came back, and there was 8 of us in a room. And so my girlfriend that was with me was like, I have a boyfriend. I can't sleep on that bed because there's another guy in it. And I was like, I'll sleep in the bed. I just want a bed, not the floor.
I kind of respect her, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I mean,
I'm kind of stoked.
No, but if you knew her, you shouldn't.
Okay.
Damn.
Got it. Okay.
Trust. So, so I did that, whatever. And then this guy with a broken wrist with his BlackBerry and his charm rolls over and goes, hi.
So this is Brady.
This is Brady. And this is cut to Brady coming into the picture. And so this is right before I deploy. In the, I think it was the October in 2008. Yeah, 2008 that I met him for the first time. And then we just I was like, I'm going to Afghanistan, so we'll see you later. And so we exchanged numbers and we stayed friends. And then, so he kind of knew this person, deployed, and then got just a shitstorm that came back, and then still kind of stuck with it. I mean, it's been almost 12 years. The poor guy's, you know what, Andy and Bishop and Gareth said, he deserves a medal. And so I've come to that conclusion. I should probably just make him a medal.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Jumping back to here. So you meet Brady, and then at what point do you check into your actual unit? Is this...
So my actual unit, I got there in September. So when I finished, and it was a quick turnaround. So when basic training, SQ, DP1, posting. Right on posting in September. So January was basic. Posting in September. Deploying in April.
Pretty good turn.
Oh, it was quick.
How was it when you showed up to your unit?
I showed up with 4 other guys who were big dudes like you and me. And those 4 guys got immediately put to mop buckets and brooms, and I got just walked in and told to hang out. Yeah. So I got a little...
Was that equal opportunity?
Absolutely. And then, but here's the kicker. The staff members, they were all like, hey, you're going with Alpha, you're going with Bravo, you're going with Charlie. This is who your gun troop is, da-da-da-da-da. My sergeant walked over and looked at me and literally looked at me in the face, and he went, Tabanak, I get her. And I was like, you get me.
Yeah, and Tabanak means?
Fuck.
Yeah.
I get her. Yeah.
Isn't it worse than saying fucking?
It's so much worse, but he didn't speak English, so that was his extent.
There's no real translation to it in English.
No, I think it's swearing.
It's like swearing at God or something.
It's swearing against the Bible. Tabanak is like swearing against the Bible. Damn. But it's a serious word that's used on a regular basis, so it's fine.
So, once you're with your unit, I'm going back to the book here. Do you guys go into some kind of unit level training where you're not working together? My training is making me sharp, and I'm getting more excited about deployment as days go on. I am, however, aware that people on the other side of the world are training right now to take me out. This is just reality, and one that I'm coming to terms with. I have to trust my unit. I have to trust my country. So then you go to Texas, you do some training with some Americans.
How that works is when we do workup training. So once you get to your unit, everyone figure out what's going to happen. Then, we say we're going to do a field X here, and we're going to go to Wainwright, which is in Alberta. So we call it Waincock because it sucks. And it's this Echo gets it. He knows what I'm saying. Yeah, it's this wide open space with a bunch of cows that farmers just let their cows roam in, and you shoot live fire and you do field X's, and you have fake Taliban attack you. So you wear the haptic, the haptic vest and the sensor systems. And then you do at the time it was Operation Maple Leaf. And then so it's a full scale attack. So it's us, it's, infantry, it's the guys up in the Blackhawks going up, I guess the Griffins. It's, it's everyone moving in succession, and it's our first real live fire thing. And so we do those field X's. You're out there for quite a while, except we were out there in October, November in Alberta, and it gets down to minus 40. Not sure what that is for you.
I'll tell you what it is. Cold.
It sucks so bad. Yeah, the guns freeze. You can't shoot the artillery guns. They just freeze. So we stayed out there, we deal with that, and then we went to Texas. And that was the first time I'd been down to a U.S. base or anything along those lines. So we went to Fort Worth, I believe it was. And we went out and shot live fire artillery out there with the M777s, which was amazing because we got to do we didn't have to do movement drills. We got to just focus on the guns, which was really, really nice, kind of get comfortable within those. And then I got gastro because you guys ran out of water and soap and nobody washed their fucking hands. And so I got sick and it was awesome. So thank you for that.
So you got sick, and you got to buy the book when it comes out because you go into some details about this, but you get pretty dramatically sick.
Yeah, it was really not
pass
fun.
Out type thing.
Yeah. I ended up going to the hospital for 3 or 4 days, I think it was, in Quebec, and I didn't know what they were saying
and
to me.
And that's when you came back from
so I got
Texas?
Yeah, so I was kind of starting to feel really bad because we were only there for about a week, and it was a very short time frame. We do live fire, then you go to zero some weapons, do a little more, and then go hike a mountain for no fucking reason, and then go back for a hangout for a couple weeks, and then we got we just worked out for 2 months, 3 months, and then we got a couple weeks off, and then we left.
What about the trip to Cuba?
Yeah, so Cuba happened in the Christmas holiday break there where I almost drowned. That was a good time.
What'd you go to Cuba for?
So our unit wanted to go just on a vacation together. like without staff members, like just like the rest of the gun bunnies. We're all going to go somewhere. So we decided to go, and I thought for some reason I should go, which was a stupid decision.
Wait, so this was not a military trip?
No.
You're going on vacation?
Yeah, this was like our pre-deployment. Yeah, because we could go to Cuba before you guys, right? Because Canadian, and we didn't do the whole Bay of Pigs thing to you. Yeah, we're allowed.
So you went there.
Yeah.
And you're just on a vacation, hanging out. But you almost you almost die.
Yeah, like legitimately.
Right?
I've never experienced something like that in my life. Yeah, that was
What happened?
So I went out like an idiot because I was like, I'm going to take a picture out here because it looks beautiful and it's unobstructed. So I walk out as far as I can to one of these concrete. It's like a concrete barrier, and it just goes out quite a while, right? And it's by busy I mean it's a very windy day, and so I walk out there like an idiot. And I turn and I didn't see
This is like a seawall, like a jetty sticking out in the ocean.
Yeah, but it went out further than I expected it to. And I went there, and a wave just decided it was going to wash me out. And it did, but it then kept me under. And I've never had that experience.
Are you comfortable in the water?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I am.
How'd you get comfortable in the water growing up?
I swam.
Lakes,
yeah.
Cool.
We do like wakeboarding and swimming.
So you're like legit comfortable in the water.
Yeah, I can swim. I'm not stressed. I've recently did a triathlon. Like I can do water now. Like we're good. But for some reason, because I was such an idiot at the time, I was worried about my stuff and not just trying to survive. So instead of trying to get up, I was holding on to everything and just hoping it would spit me out because I didn't realize how far down I was. I was very far down. Yeah, it took a while to get me out. There was a moment there where I was like, oh, okay, so this is just happening now. This is your...
Where did you end up? On the beach, right?
Yeah, it spit me right out. Like the last minute.
And did you have to swim then to the beach?
No, when I say it spit me out, like I felt sand. Like it kicked me all the way front up to the sand, and then I just drug my ass up like it wasn't a big deal. Like it was fine, guys. I'm fine. It's fine. It's fun.
And then you get done with that, and now it's time to go on deployment.
Right.
Here you are saying goodbye. When I reach for my big tough dad, he starts crying. And I fight with everything in me to hold back the tears and be strong for him. Hooch. Saying that right?
Hooch, yeah. Like, Hooch. Turner and Hooch.
It's your dog.
Right.
Hooch paws at our legs, whimpering, and Dad pulls back and looks me deep in the eyes and through his tears says, love you, kiddo. Mom is doing her best to keep it together, but when I hug her, I can feel her tears on my shoulder. When she lets go, she forces a smile, as I do, and we say, I love you at the same time. I turn around and step into my truck, wave one last time, and drive away. I look in my rearview mirror and see Dad and Dylan holding Mom as she sobs. Dylan waves, and I turn the corner. They're out of sight, but not out of mind. I pull over to the side of the road and stare out as if in a fog. My breathing becomes heavy, a mixture of sadness and excitement, fear and wonder, but mostly my family comes back to mind. The next time they see me, I'll no longer be their little girl. Are you feeling the gravity of deployment yet, or are you just still pumped?
No, I was just still excited.
Yep.
I don't know that there was a way to feel the gravity at the time.
We were talking before we hit record, we were talking about Dean Ladd, who was a Marine in World War II, and I was talking about combat with him, and he was, I forget what islands he did in the Pacific campaign, but Tarawa was his second or third island assault as a Marine in World War II. And I asked him something like, so were you nervous about getting wounded or killed? He's like, no, that's always going to happen to the other guy. And this is a guy that already went on multiple campaigns, and he's going into Tarawa, and Tarawa from the ocean looks like a complete bloodbath. And he ends up getting gut shot anyways on the way in, and it's only by a complete miracle that his Marines disobeyed the orders to just drive on and carried him back and threw him onto a boat before they went. So I think a lot of that, the gravity of the situation, I think it's just we're just too young and dumb and amped. It's
exactly it. You're too young. We're able to make decisions very young. Like we're allowed to, at least in Canada, I mean, I think our voting age is 18. Like things change when you're 18. That's when everyone treats you like an adult, but they're kids. They're children.
Check. Back to the book. My alarm goes off at 0500. I bolt out of bed and pack up my things. I chuckle to myself, thinking about how everything is jammed in my bag right now, when in basic, that everything had to be folded so perfectly. I remember one of the officers telling me once, "Calm down, Burns. It's just a game. Soon I'll find out if that was true." I lace up my boots, custom made for me because my feet are so small but mighty. That's me. I'm ready for war. Here we go. And then there's a little voice that comes into your head, and it says, "Welcome, Kelsey. You finally made it to war. I've been waiting for you so long. Right now you're thinking you're small but mighty, but you're so wrong. You're small, yes, but mighty? Ha. You're anything but."
Are you auditioning for that role right now? Because I'm telling you, you're killing it.
I don't know. For some reason that voice sounds a little bit familiar somehow.
Aww.
So next up, we roll into Kandahar. We unload. Others on the tarmac are loading to leave. They finished their tour, are heading out for their home leave travel. Do you call that HILTA? Do you say that, or do you say HLTA? They look exhausted. I had to highlight that part because that's like the classic non-movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's the classic non-movie.
Yeah.
You know, you're showing up with freshly starched uniform, and there's guys that are looking all exhausted and tired, ready to go home. That's the real thing, though. That's a real thing, Echo Charles. Okay. FYI.
I understand.
Like,
did you know that, Charles?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
They portray it in the movies. And they're accurate. They do a good job.
Yeah.
Sab. Did I say that right?
Sab. Yeah, Sab. It's like Sabrina.
Sabrina.
Yeah, Sab.
Sab. Jen, I spot my friends a few minutes after getting off the bus. I've never been so happy to see two familiar faces. How did you know them? Were they at a different unit?
No, they were in my unit. They're on different guns.
Got it. Welcome to CAF. Jen gives me a big hug. How are you guys doing? I wrap my arms around Sab and give her a squeeze. You've been here a week now? Yes, waiting to get briefed to find out where we're going. We're sharing a room. You should stay with us tonight so we can catch up. I can't wait to find out where my guns are waiting for me. Let's grab dinner. Sab points to the boardwalk that leads me from the Canadian side of CAF to the American side. There's a Pizza Hut here. And beach volleyball too, Jen giggles. Dozens of uniformed soldiers stroll along the boardwalk, weapons strapped to their backs, takeout containers in hand. Other soldiers sit at picnic tables, eating Subway and checking their email on laptops in true Canadian style. There's a group of people playing ball hockey on a regulation-sized hockey rink right in the middle of the desert. It's comforting to have so many reminders of home, and I guess that's why all of this is here. And I wanted to highlight that part because it's weird, right?
It's so weird. Thank you.
And war is so much different for, like, some people. That was their entire war.
That breaks my brain. I understand it. I grasp it. There's certain people have to be obviously at a different type of position than you. They can't all be doing what you're doing. But it felt super uncomfortable. There was a Tim Hortons. Mm-hmm. Like, there was just something about that. And when you came in and out of CAF and you went there and you saw like the officers that were just like walking around like this was normal, grabbing coffee in the morning, and you just see, it broke my brain. I struggled with that a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah, the war is in my first deployment to Iraq. I went to Iraq, and my first deployment to Iraq, we were in Baghdad, and we had pretty nice accommodations, relatively speaking. And then sometimes we would go and meet with other government agencies or big headquarters units, and they would have, the whole nine yards, theaters and Subway and Burger King and Starbucks and all this crazy stuff. And then the next whatever, we'd get in our vehicles and drive out 4 hours to some ODA special forces team out in the middle of nowhere. They'd be living on MREs for 3.5 months. It was a totally different war for it's like different people experience really different wars, even in the same theater. Even in Baghdad, you could go 20 minutes from Bayap, the main base in the beginning, or 20 minutes from the green zone. You could get to people that were just living in the in the proverbial shit. Yeah. And 20 minutes away. And they're living a totally different life, totally different war. So I think that's always important to point out. And I think that opening scene that you saw was a good way to point that out. It's going to be, and depending on your job, you could have spent You could have spent your whole deployment, depending on your job, eating Tim Hortons and sitting at a computer and, responding to emails and working some logistics. And like you said, God bless them. They're doing what the military and what the coalition force needs them to do. But it's just going to be a different experience.
Yeah, it's going to be drastically different. And it's always interesting, too, because you would get the guys that would go out to the FOBs and come back and forth. And they always seem to have a little bit more of a lighthearted way of dealing with things. And then you would get us who would go out there and just never come back. And then when we did come back, it was the end of the deployment. So, and you could see the difference in the people. You could just tell. It was quite obvious.
You get a little in brief. Afghanistan is a big sandbox with bombs hidden everywhere. Sergeant lifts up a cigarette box to demonstrate. This can take off your legs. He points to a big barrel. That one can blow you up while you're inside a tank. He looks each of us in the eye. IEDs come in every shape and size and can do a wide range of damage. IED training is a wake-up call. There are vehicle-borne IEDs, VBIDs, and even donkey-borne IEDs, DBIDs. And then different types of IEDs, centralized, daisy chain, pressure plate, secondary device, remote detonated, and good old-fashioned landmine. There's scary shit waiting for you outside the wire. He motions us further into a fenced area of CAF. The Taliban is made up of very smart, resourceful people. They'll use anything they can get their hands on to make IEDs. Something that looks like a discarded cigarette package or a piece of garbage can be an explosive. That's a nice little wake-up call.
That was a shock to the
system. You know who
system.
else notices that?
Who's that?
PTSD voice.
Yeah.
PTSD voice comes in. This IED training will stay in your brain forever, Kelsey. You won't have to work to recall it. It will become part of you. Every single time you walk down a city street, litter equals possible death. And will bond us. Well, unless the training fails you and you blow yourself up, of course. Nothing to get yourself too worked up about.
Honest to God, if you don't do the voice, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life.
Fast forward a little bit. I stare at the door gunners hanging off the back of the tail of the Chinook as we fly away from CAF. There are 2 more gunners up by the pilots. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined this is where I'd be at 19 years old. I'm seated in the belly of a flying whale, zooming across a war zone with roughly 30 other soldiers. Nobody speaks because the Chinook is deafening. My stomach is in knots, yet I can't stop smiling. I've never felt so alive. I've been addicted to adrenaline for as long as I've known how to feel. It's part of my genetic makeup. We're on our way to an American forward operating base, Ramrod, where we'll be until the end of this tour. We'll be the only Canadians there, and most of my unit can't speak English. I'll be one of the people helping us communicate with the Americans because they'll be able to understand me. We'll only be back at CAF if something bad happens until it's our turn to leave, or if we die. Another fun new reality. The chances of everyone in this Chinook returning in one piece are pretty slim. I'm okay with that. I know what I signed up for. There's not many English-speaking people in your unit?
No, that's what I mean. I was posted to a French unit at, like, northern Quebec. I deployed with a French unit, a French-speaking unit.
Are there records in French? Like their military records?
Yeah, everything's in French.
So it's French.
Yeah.
It's like, a French unit.
It's a French
unit. Are
you
fluent in French?
Not anymore. I live on the west coast of Canada now, so I should learn Mandarin.
Were you back then?
I didn't know any French till I got there. And so what happened was I remember the first parade very vividly. We lined up for parade in the morning. I got the whole briefing from the adjutant, so the warrant officer, in French. You shut your mouth, Nico. And so I got we got the whole briefing in the morning in French. We did drill in French, and so I literally.
And you don't know French?
No, I didn't know any French. So they were like, learn, and I was like, how? They're like this, and I was like, okay. So I'd be like, the thing for me my poor sergeant. I'd walk up to him and I'd be like, Sergeant Leblanc, this word? I'd be like, how do you say leadership? Et anglais et en français. Mm-hmm. And then he would translate. So he was just a human dictionary for me. And then I just slowly would pick up. And then as I would say, I would speak Fringlish. Mm-hmm. So I would half English sentence, half French sentence. And they would get that I was trying. And as long as I tried, they would talk to me. But if I didn't even try, there would be no acknowledgement. So then when we deployed, I learned the RWS system on a T-Lab. I was the gunner for the RWS system. I learned that in French. I don't know it in English. I learned the M777 howitzers in French. So like, melib coulas, like open all the breach. I don't know it in English. I don't know the system in English. Mortar rounds, French. all of it.
That's like the French Foreign Legion. You just show up there and they just start talking to you in French and you figure it out.
Exactly.
That's what you got.
I got it. Me and like 4 other dudes got that.
Walking into the tent, I'm excited to see that the people here before us made separation walls, giving each of us a little private area of about 7 by 7. There's a cot in each one, and I claim the best room of all, which must have been set up by a woodworker. My walls are cut out of plywood to make it look like I'm in a castle.
Legitimate castle.
So, how did you get the best room?
I got in there first. Well, first we were welcomed by a noose. So when we got to Ramrod, we walked in, and the unit that we were ripping out was a reservist unit from Canada. And we had our guns. The 2 guns were facing, I want to say south. And then we had 4 or 5 tents, just all-purpose tents, those green ones. And then there was like a makeshift shower. And there was like a literal road line in the sand where there was like this quarter was the Canadian side. And then we had 1 OP tower on that side, and that was ours to manage. And everybody else just kind of stayed over here. And so we walked.
What other nationalities are on the base with you? Is it
just Americans?
Just Americans.
Just
okay.
Americans. Very small. It was a tiny fob. And so when we got over there, we kind of turned the corner and we go, okay, Alpha's going here, comms tent here. We were just separating everyone. And there was a noose hanging from our tent, like right at the entrance. So I was like, fucking welcome to Afghanistan.
Just positive vibes coming at you
Felt
from whoever
so
you
good.
ripped out.
Yeah. That was super awesome. So we got lucky because one of the reservists reservists, they carpentry during the week and soldier on the weekends. So I had an actual woodworker and carver who built like these wood walls, but one of them he made to look like a legitimate castle. So they're like, Princess can go in there. And so Princess went her ass in there. Yeah. And
Princess was like, cool.
I'm going to take this great table with like a hand carving of an artillery gun shooting. I'm going to take like the one with like the rod to hang my stuff on. Like, I'm going to take this, no problem. My choice.
How many people were in your unit from Canada in that area?
Well, we had 2 gun troops.
How big is a gun troop?
It's like 5 to 7 people.
So it's like you got 14 or 15 people.
And then you've got your bombardier chef. So that's your 2IC. So your master bombardier. And then you've got your sergeant. And then you've got your warrant officer that calls the comms with the officers. So it was probably like
20.
20, 25 people.
Check. Go into a little dialogue here. I can't believe you used buckets and a washing board before you got used to the American machines. Gould teases. It's just training if we need to go outside the wire. I know it's pure pioneer-like. I jab him in the arm. Remember, the Canadians have the internet. But we have the best gear. And we have soft drinks, the Canadians. What do you care? You're always drinking water. A sly smile rises from his square jaw. We're in the desert, for Christ's sake. He leans against the machine. I would give anything for a Coke right now. No wonder you guys are always banned from drinking soda. I chuckle. Dehydration isn't funny, Gould. I can't imagine not drinking water here. It's so refreshing. I still want a Coke so bad. How many cans of Coke for a pair of Oakleys? I pull a can from my pack. He peers over his sunglasses, the dark frame sliding down his long nose. How many pairs do you want? Just one. I hand him 2 cans of soda, and he passes over his sunglasses. For real? He cracks open the Coke with a wide smile. For real. We sit down on the steps while the dust swirls around our feet. Gould hits play on the Dane Cook comedy album on my laptop for our weekly laundry ritual, and we laugh until the wash is done. So you're starting to make some friends.
Well, you guys weren't allowed soda. You guys were passing out outside the wire. The ones in the fob. It was really bad. Like, it got to the point where there was like a mandate that came down. There was like no more soda for you guys. And so we had this really special tent that we didn't share. And it was Gucci food. Like, we had all the sugar. We had the Pop-Tarts. We had the soda. We had the Gatorade. We had the ice cream bars. We had the shit. And so it got to a point where we slowly started, when we went on the OP tower for the first night, I was up there and I went to do a comms check, and I did it in French. Because it was just, I just, without thinking, just did it. And then I got this like super thick Texas accent come through.
What the hell are you talking about?
Ma'am, can you come back? I did not understand that. And I was like, oh shit, sorry, comm check's over. And he's like, are y'all going to be talking like that always? And I was like, every single one of us speaks French, and there's like 2 English, and they're like, it's going to be a problem over. And I was like, just for you, not for us. And so we started to slowly build this relationship with the few of us that could speak English. And the whole key was, if we could build the relationship, then maybe we could use their washing machines and maybe we could use their showers, because we were doing like jerry can. We had a plywood wall with a jerry can with the hose. And so I was like, it'd be just nice if, because they have running water, if we could share. And so I started to be friendly with some people, and that's easy when you're like one of the 3 women on the fob. And they got to the point where some of them were like legitimately like, can we have some soda? And I was like, you may not have soda from anyone, but you guys get all the Gucci kit. Like, you get everything, and you guys get like tons of it. And so I convinced one of them, I was like, I will give you cans of soda, but I want Oakley's, and I want the lenses, and I want the frames, and I want as many pairs as I want. Like, no question. And you guys, they could just go get them. Anything.
Yeah, it's America.
So, but it blew my mind. We didn't even have NVGs the first night on the tower.
Oof.
So I was just excited to just get Oakley's one time.
Going back to the book here, you're meeting some more troops. McMahon is about a foot taller than Gould, but they're close like brothers and have been on a couple tours together. They're infantry and know what it's like outside the wire. I love listening to their stories since I probably won't find out what it's like firsthand being artillery. A heavily tattooed American joins us where we're sitting. Have you been outside the wire yet? He asked. No. A lot of it you don't want to see. This guy has a line tattooed on the back of his neck, along with the words "cut here," which sums up his sense of humor. Careful, these stories aren't appropriate for her. Gould jokes. Hey, I want to hear. Like about women being stoned to death for looking at a man, he says. You've actually seen it happen, I ask. Yes, not far away from here. They bury women up to their necks and throw rocks at them until they die. Jesus. I graduated from high school 2 years ago, but here I'm getting a different kind of education. So many people are victims of the Taliban, and one of the reasons I'm here is to help them.
You know what I'm talking about. It's a very real thing in a very real place, and it happens very often. And that was a shock to the system in a way I didn't, when they tell you when you go over, what I was kind of told when we go over, we're helping women and children, like we're freeing them from an oppression. We're doing those types of things. But then when you see it for the first time in person and you see what that really looks like, and to the extent that it happens, that shit is no joke. And when he's like, this happens, it's not far from here. And then you see it for the first time, I kind of go back to that. I remember that conversation still very vividly. Because it was just one of those like nonchalant, like, nah, it's not a big deal. Like it happens. Like Gould had done a tour in Iraq and then an Afghan tour and then my tour and then he passed away on his last tour.
Speaking of Afghans, there's some Afghans that are on base workers and whatnot. Tell us that story about when this guy starts asking you a bunch of questions.
That was really bad. So if people don't know, and you know that there's certain things that are allowed to be spoken about and questioned, but there's a line, and if you have interpreters or you have certain people that are working with you that are from the Afghan country, they know the rules. They're told very early if you're going to come in and out. Yeah.
So just to set the stage on this a little bit, when you're at a fob like this,
right,
there's a pretty good chance that there'll be locals hired to come and work, whether it's doing laundry, whether it's digging trenches, whether it's helping prepare food. So it's in Iraq and it's in Afghanistan, it's anywhere. It's the story that I heard from the SEALs in Vietnam. They had local Vietnamese people that would come and help them clean or help them prepare food or they'd have a little bar set up. They'd have someone work in the bar. So it's very common that when you go to a host country, on your base, you're going to have some local people working there. And this is what they have. Yeah. Now, you have to watch them.
Yes.
And basically, you were on one of the parties that was watching them and observing. Yeah. And all of a sudden, a guy starts asking you some pretty probing questions for some details about what was going on base.
Yeah, so what happened with me is once we started to build that relationship, going back to what we did, how we were with the Americans, was we would then give them one of us once a week to do GD duty or whatever they needed us to do. So that would allow us to now use their showers and washing machines. So I was like, fuck yeah, it's my week to go up. I'm going to get a break from the French. I'm going to go up and speak some English, and I'm just going to not have to worry about firing for a while. So I go up. And they said, listen, you're going to go with another one of your Canadians. And he spoke no English. I mean, nothing. And so I didn't even know enough French to really converse with him much. So, and he's a smaller dude. So we're just standing there and they're, just bring your flop hat, just bring your rifle and a mag. You don't need your plates or anything. You're inside the fob. You should be fine. So we go out. They said, we're going to watch this group of guys. We're bringing them in right now, and we're going to have them do rebar, and we're going to have them set like a concrete base for I think it was the trucks when they came in, so they could do maintenance on them, things like that. And so they had done this before. I had seen them in and out of the fob, and we're standing there, and it's midday. And this one of the guys walks over to me, and he kind of looks like he's either in charge or he should be in charge of the group of guys that's there. Because there's always one of them that's talking with a terp that's just saying, hey, this is what you're going to be doing for the day. So make sure you guys do this, this, and this. And that's all fine. They have their own cooler. They know where it is. They know they can go and get water or whatever at any time, not to bother us. We're there to watch you, and that is it. No interaction. This guy comes up to me, and he goes, Miss, I haven't seen you here before. Fairly good English, like terrifyingly good English. And I'm saying, I just don't acknowledge. I'm like, yep, go back to work. Right. And that's something I was very good. I just shut off, and I just have this resting bitch face that just turns you away very quickly. And so he looks at me and he kind of, okay. Well, but miss, when did you guys get here? I haven't seen, where are you? I haven't seen where you are. And so if you think about it, I'm the only woman standing there, and I'm small. So I go soft target. I would do the same thing, go for the soft target. And so I say, just go back to work. And so a little while goes by, and he's, whatever. And he comes back over again. And he goes, Miss, can I get a Gatorade? And I said, you know where the cooler is? Go get it. Like, don't ask me, go. And he's like, okay. So he grabs a cooler and he gets Gatorade. Comes back. He goes, Miss, those guns that you have, those new guns, how far can they go? How far can they shoot? And I said, you know that you can't be asking those questions. Don't ask those questions. Go back to work. And he goes, but I wonder, I don't see the ammo anywhere. Where do you keep it? You must keep it somewhere. You have to. They must shoot far. Can they move? And so this guy's just being a dick. And so at some point I'm going, go the fuck back to work. I'm done with your shit. Like, go the fuck, like knife handing, like go back to work kind of level stuff. And so I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Just this doesn't sit right in my feelies here. And so I tell my buddy, I'm going to go talk to someone. So I go walk over to one of the sergeants, and, or what I thought was the sergeant. He was not the sergeant. He was one of you. And so I walk over, and he goes, he just immediately like grabs hands on his wrist. What's he saying? What's he saying? And I said, he's asking me about the guns, and, he knows. He goes, what else did he say? I said, how far do they shoot? And he goes, all right. And he just grabs the side of me and goes, I want you to put a mag in. I want you to make ready. And I just want you to stand there. Okay. Handle that. And I was like, yeah. He goes, just go stand over there. I was like, okay, cool. So I walk back over and I tell my buddy, I was like, just, and he goes, the fuck? Why are you telling me to load a round? I'm like, just look at the round. He's like, okay. So the next thing you see is this like blacked out gator. Like this blacked out gator come rolling with a bunch of dudes, all black, big motherfucking beards. And I just see them, like, the dust is just going. It's just out of a movie. And I'm like, oh, no, what did I do? I fucked up. And so he sees them too. And so he whips his head around and he's looking at me and he's like, oh, fuck, you can tell. He comes over to me and he's got his hands in prayer and he's, miss, no, I wasn't doing anything wrong. And he gets down on his hands and knees in front of me. And he's, miss. One of the guys just walks, like, doesn't even look me in the eye, just walks over, just fucking bag around his eyes, zip ties his hands. And he's, miss, no, I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. I'm sorry. Please tell him. He starts crying. And then my buddy's there. And then all the other Afghanids that are working start coming towards us. So then we start just pointing, get the fuck back. And this is happening. And I'm just going, what the fuck is happening right now? And I was like, get the fuck back. And they're just, they hands up and they don't want any trouble. They're just like working. They don't know what's going on more than I do. And so they back up and they're standing there and they're talking amongst themselves. And this guy's crying and they put him back in the gator. And then one of them comes over and he goes, you good? And I was like, yeah. They're like, all right, we're going to take him. See you later. And I was like, what? And so I like take the round out, put it back in the magazine, put the magazine down, and I just go, okay. So we just, that happened. And then he never came back. Mm-hmm. So he went for a ride. Mm-hmm. And then I asked a few people later on, and they just said he went for a ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And probably A guy like that, like you said, he's trying to gather intel.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of info. Like when I was in Baghdad, they had guys were marking positions with their GPSs. And like straight up, like they knew exactly where to aim their mortars at. So
they're dialed.
Yeah.
And they're effective with it too. With that information, they had an incident like that before we got there too, where they tried to get in, and one of the guys was drugged out of his mind. Like he did too much drugs, because often you'll know, and if your listeners don't, if there's a suicide type mission, drugs often heavy intoxication, because you need the balls to go do that. And he got in, but was so totaled, he just like passed out. But he could have very easily grabbed someone's rifle, and that would have been the end of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Going back to the book, I'm still rattled when I get back to the Canadian side of the fob. I want to have a shower, some snacks, and watch TV, but as soon as I get in, one of the guys tells me, Burns, Sergeant wants to see you over in the radio tent. And he says it in French, which I'm not going to do.
Don't do it.
Why would the sergeant want to see me in the radio tent? I work on guns, not in communications. I walk into the tent quickly and find Sergeant. You wanted to see me, Sergeant LeBlond? Is that right?
LeBlond, you nailed it.
He doesn't look pleased. Yes, I just got a call. Come with me. He walks over to a bunch of maps that are laid out on a table. Look, Burns, you're going out on an operation soon. What? But we don't move the guns. This has nothing to do with the guns. You're being borrowed by the Brits. I don't understand. You're being tasked to go with the Black Watch infantry unit next week on a foot operation outside the wire. My heart is racing. As in the British Black Watch? Whoa, why me? They need a female soldier to search women and children, and you've been selected to go. Yes, it's go time. I'm getting my chance to do the job I've wanted to from the very beginning. My sergeant doesn't look happy. His eyebrows are drawn together on his bald head, and his strong jaw is set. Listen, I'll just be honest with you, Burns. I'm not happy to take you off the guns because it leaves us short-handed. But I also know what you're walking into. I've tried to convince them to take someone else. I want to say, why are you holding me back? With all due respect, Sergeant, I wanted to be infantry from the beginning. I chose guns because they said I was too small to do infantry. I want to do it. The Black Watch are heavy hitters. They're all from the Scottish Highlands and have a reputation for being ruthless and tough, he says. I know the Black Watch. I can handle it. He tilts his head and looks at me. Let me put it this way. Most commandos in World War II were from the Black Watch. I know. I'm a history buff. They have a long, proud history, and I'll help them uphold it. Regardless of how either of us feel about it, it's come down the chain of command, and you're going. I'll be fine. I feel like you've prepared me, and I'm willing to go. Don't kid yourself. Nobody can prepare you for what you'll see out there, Burns. So that's a dramatic change of events. Did you have any inkling that could happen?
No.
Had you heard of that happening before?
No, I had no idea. No idea. And the thing with him is he was infantry before. And so before we even deployed, that guy was very good. Sergeant LeBlanc was incredibly good at training us. So we would do extra time at the range. He would get us, certified up to level 4. And so we would do all different extra house clearing. And so there was, at least I had him to teach me that before, because I would have been fucked sideways if I didn't. And so I had no idea that was even a possibility that could happen to a person. I figured you're going to do your job, you go to do your job. That was not the case. And I just talked to him recently, actually, for the first time in 10 years. And he was very adamant about me not going in the first place. And he still feels that was the worst decision and piss poor leadership skill above him. So it wasn't great.
And that's because he just thought that it wasn't smart to take someone that wasn't in that role, and that's someone that's supposed to be, manning artillery guns in the rear at a fob and throw you out in the field. Is that what he didn't like about the decision?
Yeah, he didn't like that, and he also knew a little bit what was going on in the country, and he knew I wasn't going to be as prepared for that. I mean, we had an idea of what we were going to do and where we were going to be at in that country and how we were going to be affecting that country. And for him, he was more of the understanding of, when you take a person off the guns, then you short somebody on the OP tower. When you short somebody on the OP, it's a rigmarole bullshit that rolls. So he wanted me to be better prepared, but he knew I wasn't. So he knew there was a good chance something could go sideways. And plus, not only that, is I was a no-hook gunner that was in the military and done like a training maybe barely a year ago. So he's like, this is a terrible leadership decision to be sending you out on your own. Because when I went, I was not really under the command of the British. I was my own. I made my decisions. If I thought somebody needed to be searched, everything stopped. So they said to me, you go, you make the decisions. If you see a sketchy woman, everybody stops. Don't hesitate. Don't think we don't want to bother you. Fucking tell us and we stop. And so he knew I was going to be my own person, and he was just a little nervous about what that would mean.
Plus you're 19.
Yeah, I was a kid.
And you've been in the military for a year at this point?
Like year and a half by the time we actually deployed.
And how long you been in country for?
We were in country for maybe 2 months.
And you've been sitting on the FOB the whole time?
And firing artillery.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, on the FOB, that's the one thing that was really great about my sergeant and the people that I had there is they were all super fit. Well, half of them were super fit. And so we were very adamant about keeping up with that. And so it's not like I was slacking off when I got there. It's not like I wasn't adjusting to the heat and running in plates. It's not like I wasn't carrying weight and shooting on the range. We were doing as much as we could to keep in fighting shape. And so for me, that was important. And that was the key to being able to handle the week with them on foot. And that was one of the reasons they picked me. It wasn't like just a female. They're like, they need someone that can go out for long enough and carry the weight and then make sure that she can shift between multiple units and do the distance on foot. And so I fit the bill, I guess. Me and I think there was one other woman, but she was further away and she did not speak much English, and she was with the Brits as well.
Check. So that's out of left field coming at you. Pretty wild. Let's fast forward a little bit to you actually show up with the Brits. Welcome to Alpha Company, the Grenadiers. Sergeant Major leads me aside. You'll be working with Minded Platoon. Stay low and move fast. Listen to the NCOs and platoon sergeants, and all should be fine. Bucky, he motions to a short, stocky guy. I strain to understand what's being said to me in a thick Scottish accent. I've never worked with a unit from a country besides Canada and USA, and I could clearly understand them, but wow, the British are a whole new ball game. What ye taking me away from scoff for? Burns, your female searcher. Sergeant Major steps back and sizes me up. Don't know what you know, but we are the Aviation Assault Group. Fly in, fuck shit up, fly out. Don't slow us down and don't hesitate to fire. This is Sergeant Bucky. You'll be working with him. Bucky looks at me with the kindest of eyes and always have a battle buddy. He points to the far end of the room. That tall Fijian is Rab. Saying that right, Rab?
Yeah, Rab. Well, they call him, it's Rob, but Rab is how they...
Okay, got it. And the red-haired bloke is Van. They're the only non-Scottish in the group. McLaren is next to him, is as new as you are. Been with us less than a month. That skinny guy on the other side is Mark. And Patty, he calls out to a tall, muscular man across the room and motions him over. This is the section commander, Patty. They're not all built like him. Patty could bench press a car. Patty shifts his weight and pulls his shoulders back proudly. When he opens up his mouth, it's also to speak in a Scottish accent. We'll have a kit check before the next stop, so make sure your kit is squared. Make sure you have 10 liters of water in your day sack and some warm kit. The Afghani nights are freezing. So there's your little welcome aboard scene. How long were you with them before you went out in the field?
Like 3 or 4 hours. And most of them napped. And I just sat there twiddling my thumbs because I was like, I can't sleep at this point. How are you supposed to?
So you got 10 liters of water.
Yeah.
You got your body armor.
Yep.
You got your weapon. You got ammo. You got grenades. You're loading out a pretty significant loadout.
Oh, yeah. It was.
Do you know how much it weighed?
I want to say it at least had to be 65.
Mm-hmm. And what's your body weight at this point?
At that point, I was 103.
So yeah, check. That's awesome. Good thing you were in good shape.
Right? Well, it's the only reason that I survived.
So the op that you're doing, you're basically going to jump ahead.
Yeah.
And there's not that much to jump ahead because you're, like you said, you're there for a few hours. Most of the guys are sleeping, getting ready to go on the operation. You got your in brief, which is don't pay attention to the NCOs. And now you're out on this operation. And basically what you're doing is you're going through various villages and you're clearing villages and you're interacting with the local populace, looking for contraband, looking for weapons, looking for intel, questioning people. Mm-hmm. And that's where you come into play. As a female, it can be a real problem if American males, or in this case British males, start interacting with the Afghan females. It's totally frowned upon. So we learned early on, okay, you got to bring some females with you to interact with them, to search them. I mean, certainly the local male coalition forces putting hands on the Afghan women is going to be a real problem. And yet, since it's a real problem, maybe they're hiding stuff, maybe they're hiding weapons and whatnot. So this is sort of the standard operating procedures that most of the coalition forces eventually picked up. Bring some females with you that can help search and also can talk to them and, through an interpreter, figure out what's going on.
Right, exactly.
Fast forward a little bit. You're on this op. We all get in a position to kick open the first door. The compound is basically sand-shaped into walls. There's no furniture. There are no windows. There isn't much inside except for some mats for sleeping. I swallow hard, stand back with my weapon loaded, and observe. When Patty kicks open the door, screams, waving arms, and dark clothes flash before us as people flee the main room. Patty and Rob stand square, guns drawn. Nobody's getting past them. Unflinching, I block the path of women and wave them into a separate room with my gun. Bucky detains a few of the children who scamper off and forces them into my area. One mother glances behind herself at the children, and I see panic in her eyes. I yell to the Terp, tell the women and kids not to move and that I'll be there soon. He bawls at me and grabs me by the vest. I push him hard to the floor. Get your hands off me. My face is hard. And this is a Terp that you're talking to.
Yeah, because he thought I was a guy corralling the women because my braid was tucked in underneath because they're like, don't stand out.
My face is hard, but my heart is beating fast. I've heard some Terps were actually enemy combatants leading our guys into minefields and shaking over the Afghan worker incident. I'm not taking any chances. It's so hard to tell the enemy from harmless civilians. Any one of these people could be armed. As I turn toward the dusty room with women and children, a man shouts at me in Farsi. My breathing is deep, my mind sharply focused, my gun solid and locked on him. I understand it is horrific having the military burst into your home in the early morning, so I call out to the Terp, please tell the father I'm not going to hurt them. I just need to look around. Suddenly an ear-splitting scream comes from the Terp, waving his hands, motioning me away. In an instant, Bucky is there, gun in hand, bellowing at him. I keep my eyes on everyone in the room while the muffled conversation goes on. Then Bucky calls out, Burns, take off your helmet. They think you're a man. My hair is tucked under my helmet and I'm wearing a scarf so I look like a small man. No wonder he's been losing his mind over me going into a room filled with women and children. The Terp tells the father that I'm a woman, but he shakes his head in disbelief. I rip off my helmet, showing off my bright blonde hair, and the man's eyes open wide. He's calmed down. The rest of my unit goes into the other room and searches the walls and floors while I bring Patty and Rob with me. Wait outside the door while I go in with the women and kids. I don't know if I did a best job of reading that, but there's a lot of freaking chaos going on.
Yeah.
And for me, when I read it, I'm like kind of used to that kind of chaos because I've done that a bunch of times, but I can't imagine this is your first time doing this.
I love your face right now. Yeah. You're horrible. You're enjoying this like so much.
The door gets kicked open. People are screaming. There's like mayhem.
It was straight mayhem. And the best part was there was like goats and chickens and cows in the mix of it all because they all lived together in this shit show. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience, Jocko.
It sounds like you were relatively confident though.
I was confident in my ability with my weapon. My like I had said, like going back when I talked about my sergeant, he was Sergeant LeBlanc. He's an officer now, so no fault of his own. He's deployed currently. But we talked about that and I was like, why did you do what you did? Why were you as hard on us as the way you were? Why were you as much of a dick to me as you were? Because there's a reason for it. You need to know how to use that thing. Not just shoot it, but move and fucking shoot it. Move and hit targets. Hit people in the face if you need to hit people in the face. And so when all this chaos kind of happened, it's not that I was ready for it, but I anticipated the chaos. And I know for me, I'm very good, I think, at handling stressful situations for the most part. I can really kind of zone out, look back and kind of go, okay, what the fuck is going on here? And I let them kick the door open. Once I got comfortable, then I started kicking the door. But I wanted to know what I was looking at here because that was my first experience with the women and children. I had never seen or been near an Afghan woman or a child before in a full screen burqa. I've just never done that. And that incident was, we did that. We kicked the door open. They said, we're going to wait as soon as morning prayer is done. The second it's over, we're kicking the fucking door. So they were awake. It's not like it's still not terrifying. Don't get me wrong for them, but I anticipated the stress and what that was going to look like. So I knew if I just could focus at exactly what I needed to do, find the women and kids, then I could my purview was that. Do that really well and let them handle everything else.
Check. So you guys are out. You're doing more clearances. You start getting a little bit more used to it. Now you know what you're dealing with. In the meantime, there's just fast forward a little bit. There's a break in the action, and you're doing some kind of you're kind of getting to know the rest of the guys as you're getting a sip of water, taking a load off for a little bit. One of the guys, Watson, says, I only joined out of rage after the 7/7 bombings. And that was in London in 2005.
Right.
The subway system, the tube, got bombed. There's 50 plus innocent people killed. There was 500, 600, 700 that were wounded. And so that's what he's talking about. He joined after the 7/7 bombings. I'll only be doing this for 4 years, then I'm going to university for journalism. Paddy lights a cigarette and joins us. We're Scotland's most famous military name, all the way back to the 1700s. Spoken like a Highland jock, Watson tosses his shirt at him. Shut your yak. Paddy turns to me. You're lucky to be with us, Kelsey. For the time being, so you better do more lunges. Because you're getting blown up in 2 weeks, Watson ribs. You're ahead of me. I'm August 10th at 1500. Right you are. Van tosses a cigarette on the ground to burn itself out. I bet 10 American dollars on it. What? Wherever there's tension, we place bets on who will get blown up and win. That's dark, boys. But it's our best way to cope. So, get that dark sense of humor.
Oh, it's dark.
Guys are putting bets on who's going to get blowed up.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I say get blowed up, do you guys say that?
Get blown up?
No, get blowed up.
Not blowed up. No.
So I don't know why we said this, but I think I said it on all my deployments. We would always be throwing that out there. Oh, what are you doing? I'm about to go get blowed up. So it's the same sort of dark humor.
Yeah.
In fact, we had a song that was called Get Blowed Up. I can't remember the tune.
You should record that. I feel like it could be a bestseller.
Yeah, that's a good one. But what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and stress about it, or are you going to make some jokes?
Well, that's it. And now, and that's, what's the difference now is when you come back into civilian life with that. That's a hard transition point for some people, because that humor can get dark, real quick.
Yeah, there's definitely a line. I think the Article 15 movie that Tim Kennedy and the crew made is just 100% over the line.
Oh,
it's freaking hilarious, but. Yeah, it can get dark. I'm glad that those guys made that movie.
But it serves a purpose, right?
Exactly.
And then people think that it's you're being that way to be harsh and aggressive. It's like that serves a purpose of calming nerves. It serves a purpose of taking what you're seeing and all of the shit, and it takes it down a notch, and it just allows your nervous system to just get into place instead of always being at this ramped up stage. And that's often where mistakes happen. So the dark humor really just calms things down, and I respect it and I appreciated it more than I could imagine. Now I understand how helpful it was to me, but before it just seemed like sociopathic conversation in passing.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason that the military is known for having that kind of dark humor, because it is absolutely helpful, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Fast forward a little bit. Gunfire breaks the stillness of the night. I jump out of my sleeping bag and race with my gun. Residual smoke hangs in the air as guys fire on fire watch reload. Now I want you to remember that no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. Mark turns to McLaren. McLaren's grin is warm with a hint of shyness. He won it by making the other poor dumb bastard die for his country. McLaren turns to me and I shrug. Patton, 1970. Mark lights up a cigarette to add to the smoky cloud. Hang with us long enough, Kelsey, and you'll be able to quote every war movie ever made. McLaren flashes a toothy grin. You can go back to sleep. The enemy has retreated. As the only female searcher they have, I'm not allowed to do any watch at night, so I don't have a fire watch shift like I did in the FOB. Fortunately for me, that means more sleep than most of the guys I'm with. It's the same deal for medics, bomb dog handlers, and forward observers for artillery guns. 3 hours isn't much sleep, but I've gotten by with less. So these guys are constantly quoting war movies.
It's constant.
Yeah, and what I liked about this is like they're in a firefight, or at least just ending a firefight, and it's immediately into joking around about a quote